halve it. However, from the quality of the presenters here, that will be an uphill task. But let's see what we can do. First of all, I'd like to specifically thank the NCS for this great and wonderful outing here in Abuja. So far, at least from the earlier presentation this morning, there's quite a lot to be learned and to be gleaned from. And I urge all, despite the fact that it's after lunch, to please remain attentive. We will try to make it as interesting as we can. Now, I think the format we'll do, let's take it along the lines. Maybe we'll give each presenter, let's say 10 minutes to make their presentations, and then thereafter we'll probably open the floor for either contributions or questions, and then we'll see where that would take us within the time limits that we've been allowed. So without wasting too much more time, may I invite the first presenter, and I think that is representing NIMSI, which is Mr. Chuks Onyepuka, right? To please make his own opening remarks. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, distinguished guests. I'm here to represent my Director General, Chief Executive Officer, National Identity Management Commission, NIMSI. Apparently, the topic for this presentation is National Identity Management and National Database, Challenges, Opportunities, and Future Directions. The outline of my presentation is what I've shown there. What is electronic identity? What is, I also have there the need for trusted identity, the challenges of identity management, some of the consequences, the solutions, national identity database. Then we then talk about the opportunities, and we'll have the benefits as well as future. What is electronic identity? Electronic identity provides technology-based solutions for identification in order to uniquely establish a person's identity and to credential it so that the identity can be securely and unambiguously asserted and verified through electronic means for delivery of services across sectors, including healthcare, safety nets, financial services, and transport. As an individual, we'll have certain parameters that we can uniquely use to identify individuals. Technology these days, what we use is ABIS. The ABIS talks about 3 modalities. You talk about the fingerprint, you talk about the facial, and then you talk about the iris. The previous presenter did mention about iris, but what we have done, as I take on this presentation, is we have implemented 2 of these 3 modalities, which are the fingerprint and the facial. We've commenced plan for the implementation of iris. The need for trusted identity system. As you all know, from birth up until death, there are different forms of identities. systems that we have. Like when a child is born, he or she is given a birth certificate, and then education, there's one form of identity there. Then entrepreneurship, you want to set up a business, they request for certain information. And then in terms of employment, certain form of information is requested. Still the same person. So, and right now, at the different level, different stages, starting from birth, you discover that there are different forms of identities existing in different sectors. You go to bank, different information. You go to, if you go to educational sector, maybe university, they still request for this for information. So why do we have to keep these different forms of identity? There is an urgent need for us to look at one unique way of identifying individuals. Since the information collected from birth to death is not different as you progress and you move from education to employment, different stages, finances. So there is an urgent need for us to find a way that we can uniquely identify individuals as we move from the different stages. What are the challenges of identity management system? Absence of central ID. Today, when you go to INEC, they check your record. The record you have there may be different from what you have when you go to bank, like the BVN. You provide a different information. You go to, if you come to pension, the information you have there may be different. The same person. Why do we have this? Because we do not have a unique way of identifying individuals. So there are a lot of challenges that we have with respect to the current system of identifying individuals. We have so many silos of identity databases in different government agencies, ministries. So what do we need to do? The response to that, to solve some of these challenges, led to the establishment of National Identity Management Commission. And we are saddled, National Identity Management Commission is saddled with the responsibility to register every Nigerian and legal residents so that there will be a unique way of identifying the different individuals. These are some of the consequences: massive exclusions, social benefits. There are a number of programs that the government have implemented in the past and they are still implementing. But because we do not have a system of uniquely identifying these individuals, you see one person enjoying with different names, with different identities, one person with so many identities, getting that benefits. So there are a number of consequences that is associated with that. Security challenges. We all know about the Boko Harams. Today, because we do not have any form of records, there's no way you can uniquely identify those people. No single national database for such. So people, try to impersonate individuals. So as they move from one sector or from one form of programs, they change their identities. Even in the banks, you see an individual having up to 10 identities, different identities, the same individual. Why? Because there is no decentralized database. So what is the solution to solving these challenges? The solution, as outlined there, implementation of national identity management systems. One, to have national identity database where you have records of every Nigerian and legal resident that you can uniquely identify. So if you are term, if you identify by a particular number, you will maintain that. Once you enroll once, you'll be identified for life. You cannot change that identity. Secondly, we talked about the issuance of NIN. That is the National Identification Number, which, of course, individuals will be used. We can use to uniquely identify individuals. It's tied to that individual information. Then the next one has to do with the issuance of general multipurpose card. It's a token. It's not different from, if I guess some of you may have gotten, received the new identity card. It has 13 applets there. In that applet, you have payment, you have the national EID, which means you can electronically identify you wherever you are using some certain devices. But as I progress with this presentation, you will see the different forms. Then we also talk about personal identity authentication and verification services. Wherever you are, you can uniquely be identified. Whether you go to tax office or you go to road safety, but because we have a centralized identity database, it is a lot easier for them to know who you are, verify your identity. Then we talked about harmonization and integration of various identity databases. Because like I said earlier, many agencies, ministries have different forms of identity database, which is not integrated, silos. So if we're harmonized, then that information will be available. But what are we talking about? We're talking about your foundational identity, which of course will reside within NEMC. But the functional identity, which has to do with the function that you are doing, we are not concerned with your bank accounts or your bank information, no. But those information that we can use to uniquely identify you is what we have. If you are John Okafor, if you go to maybe one bank, it's still going to be John Okafor, not a institution where you interchange. Uniquely, if you go to tax office, they'll be able to say, yes, this is who you are, tied to the biometrics that we have stored in the National Identity Database. That is a schematic diagram of what the process for establishing National Identity Database. Of course, civil registration, this is where the Population Commission comes in, the MPOPC. Okay. Noted. Then you have the enrollment, where you can go to any of the enrollment center and enroll. Then we'll talk about harmonization. This is where all the various identity databases that we have with the different agencies are harmonized and integrated to form one central identity databases. The use cases, once we're able to have that national identity database, you can use it for healthcare services, delivery to citizens, you can use it for safety nets, you can use it for transport, immigration, because you now have a centralized identity database. What are the components of the National Identity Management System? The first thing we do is data capture. You can see the picture there. Then the next thing is to issue you that national identification number, which is unique to you, which can be used to uniquely identify you from now to that. Then the next one is card issuance. Card will be issued to you based on the information we have in our national database. Then authentication and verification, it can be verified. There are different forms of devices. Then harmonization, you can see NIN will be central to all the various agencies. So with your NIN, wherever you are, they can easily identify you and verify your identity. So that will eliminate identity thefts and impersonations. That's the benefits of identification management system. Convenient and simplified process of enrollment, protection from identity theft, help facilitate reform process for securities, because I have little time. So what are the opportunities? The opportunities the card will have there, like I said, we'll have phase 1 and we'll have phase 2. In that card, we already implemented 5 of the applets. And 5 of the applets that we'll have is we'll have the personal EID, the identity information, which is your EID. The security, we implemented the public key infrastructure. You can digitally use your card to sign your documents. Then we also have the travel, the account applet. We also have the verification applet for verification. Then the payment applet. You can use it as ATM, whether here or outside the country. It's been used. They've tested it and it's working fine. So these are the opportunities for us. There will have applets that have not been implemented, which other agencies, MDA, can take ownership of. The fact that it's there does not mean that NIMSI have access to that. It is them because there's already a functionality available that will not enable NIMSI to actually read what is in that information. Sorry. That is the continuation, just to show you what the front, the picture of the card, how the national EID looks like, and the different features. You can use this. Opportunity continues. You can slot it into a device, match on card device, and they take your biometrics. The policemen can use it, security agencies, wherever you are. Rather than you carrying them asking who are you and all the rest of it, you slot it to a device, and then they can verify you and your information will come up. This is offline, even if you are not connected to the database, because already in your card, you have your identity information there. Then you can do online verification with your name. Right now, the banks are using it. Some of them, they are using our verification services because we have provided that platform for it. Then, for the future is what we're talking about. We're talking about where all the silos, the identity databases that we have in silos, we harmonize with that and build one centralized database. If you remember the directive from the president and the subsequent directive from the VP regarding that every agencies, ministries should come together, harmonize the various identity databases to build one centralized database. Once you do that, if you look at before, now, you can't put a face. You go to pension, road safety, nobody seems to know who you are because we do not have a centralized database. But if we're able to implement, harmonize, and integrate the various identity database to build one centralized database, we will be able to, identify you. And of course, wherever you are, your identity can be verified. There's nothing like you will not experience identity theft. It's the same person that when they check your information with road safety, check it with pension, check it with, with the BVN. As it is, we're already harmonizing with the BVN. Their records, harmonization, transmission of data is happening between us and that. We've commenced that process, What's the future? If you remember North Korea or South Korea, they are one of within the top 10 economists. They belong to that. Why are they able to do that? Because they are able to build one centralized identity database, and every other services ride on it. If you look at it, national identity system below that, and then every other services, you can stay at your home, at the comfort of your home, because the portal, they build a portal around it. You can actually fill your form, apply for your international passport. You can apply for your birth certificate from your home because you have one. You already have a unique identification, and with that, it is a lot easier for this kind of transaction to happen. So it can promote e-governance. My concluding comment is support the paradigm shift to make a better future. Thank you.
I think we can do better than give him a round of applause. Now I know, yes, everybody is alert. Okay, I think that was I think the way to start this session, because what he has done is essentially reinforced the fact that everything we want to do around security and every other thing has to be built around some kind of national identity database, a central identity database that can uniquely identify individuals. And that is the journey that NIMSI is currently undertaking. Now, quickly, let me invite Engineer Haru Al-Hassan, who is the Director of New Media and Info in NCC, to give us the EVC's perspective on universal broadband access with respect to national safety and security imperative.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm here this afternoon to represent the Executive Vice Chairman, Nigerian Communications Commissions, in person of Professor Umar Garba Dambata, who is unavoidably absent because he's attending other important occasions. The topic of today is universal broadband access, national safety and security imperatives. And this topic is welcome because it has come at the right time. The representative of the Minister of Communications, the representative of Secretary to the Government, the representative of the Minister of Defense, the current and the past presidents of NCS, members of the NCS, and ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. In the past 2 decades, the past 2 decades have been an unprecedented period for the development of information and communication technologies, ICTs. With the advent of smarter phones and rapid access to mobile devices, the numerous benefits of ICTs has become within reach of practically everyone around the globe. By virtue of our regulatory posture within the sector, the NCC has been at the forefront of actualization of the National Broadband Plan 2013 to 2018 to ensure that everyone, irrespective of their circumstance or where they reside in Nigeria, have access to benefits of the broadband. Pervasive broadband access provides the platform for rapid socio-economic development by ensuring efficiency in business processes in the area of public safety and national security. Broadband provides opportunities for unique security applications and solutions. Although broadband also opens the cyberspace to various criminal activities, the benefits of broadband far outweigh the criminal tendencies. Socio-economic development, public safety, and broadband provisions. Public safety and national security are vital to Nigeria's prosperity, but most seldom seen only from the perspective of the military and paramilitary intervention. It is even less obvious that basic safety systems such as pervasive closed-circuit television surveillance in homes, offices, streets, and public areas depend on broadband to record data and information and transmit the data to remote storage locations for analysis. Broadband also provides a platform for efficient and reliable communication before, during, and aftermath of disaster emergencies. Broadband in developed countries is enabling new ways of achieving public safety, including new ways of calling for help and receiving prompt emergency response. Broadband networks are essential in the gathering of transmission of data for monitoring extreme weather conditions to anticipate natural disasters such as flood, famine, or the threat from extraordinary weather events such as hurricanes, typhoons, and tsunamis. During a natural disaster, such as Nigeria's flood disaster or gas explosions that are prevalent in this country, the availability of high-speed networks would make all the difference in terms of emergency response coordination. Under such circumstances, someone with a smartphone in his hand can relay vital information to aid proactive planning by relief agencies and other responders, including news gathering and dissemination. Broadband has become a key priority of the 21st century, and it is life-changing capability for enabling socio-economic growth makes it an essential tool for empowering people, creating environments that nurtures technology and service innovations, and also triggering positive change in general business processes. It is believed that increased adoption and use of broadband in the next decade and beyond will be driven by the next to which broadband support services and applications are not only made available to, but are also relevant and affordable for consumers. And while the benefits of broadband-enabled future are manifest, the broadband revolution has also raised new issues and challenges, especially in the area of cyber crimes. The Nigerian Communication Commission believes that expanding broadband penetration and access through the country is key to accelerating progress toward harnessing its full benefit. Rapid socio-economic development. It is therefore the intention of the NCC to maintain a cyber environment that encourages economic prosperity, certainty of delivery, and transaction execution while promoting efficiency, innovation, safety, security, privacy, and business confidentiality. It is also in the light that the passing into law of the Cyber Crimes Prohibition Act of 2015 by the federal government should be commended. The government has also appropriately put in place a national cybersecurity policy and strategy to provide an overall framework for combating cyber crimes. The federal government of Nigeria is establishing emergency call centers in all the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital with 3-digit emergency code number known as E112. When a person or anybody in distress dials the number 112, the call goes to the nearest emergency call center. Broadband makes the E112 emergency system more capable and efficient by providing more voice channels for the service, including the voice over internet protocol. Just like 911 in North America, that is Canada and USA. Improving national security and protecting critical infrastructure through broadband implementation. Network service providers have continually experienced attacks on critical internet infrastructures. A variety of local and non-local entities have demonstrated the ability to steal, alter, or destroy data and to manipulate or control system designed to ensure the functioning of portion or critical infrastructure. Additional safeguards are necessary to protect the nation's communications infrastructure from cyber attacks. Such safeguards could promote confidence in the safety and reliability of broadband communications and spur unhindered adoption. Existing laws will therefore need to be upgraded to cover new areas such as electronic transactions, e-commerce, and cybersecurity. NCC realized that every modern nation depends on reliable and functional critical infrastructure to guarantee national and economic security. While the Cyber Crimes Act of 2015 has some provisions for the protection of critical infrastructure, a holistic approach to critical national infrastructure protection needs to be adopted. The NCC is promoting seamless interconnectivity through a universal broadband penetration drive aimed at attaining a robust national fiber optic backbone infrastructure by providing quality regulatory interventions in terms of industry ethics, level playing ground, fair and transparent competition. That's why the broadband policy allows prospective companies known as broadband infrastructure companies, called INFRACOs, to bid for licenses on regional basis. The NCC has already started licensing the broadband infrastructure companies. These companies will roll out the metro fibers, reaching small and large offices, industries, business premises, shopping centers, and also individual homes. It also enforced last-mile infrastructure sharing regime that enables new entrants to spring up and thrive in the industry. With high broadband penetration rate, a considerable surge of internet access and utilization is envisaged, including applications in the area of Internet of Things. This will surely open up new frontiers for our national security operatives to come up with customized and unique security applications and solutions to effectively combat modern cyber threats, while at the same time enhancing their collaboration with other international agencies. Then, in my conclusion, cybersecurity is a shared responsibility, and each of us has a role to play in making the cyberspace safer, more secure and resilient. While the vast majority of the nation's cyber infrastructure reside in private sector hands, the risk to national and economic security associated with the compromise or failure of those assets means that their protection requires concerted public-private partnership. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the EVC of NCC, ably represented by Engineer Haru. I think he touched on some very, very important points. And one of my favorites was that last particular point in which he indicated that the issues around cybersecurity is a shared responsibility, as the large proportion of the resources reside in private structures, and therefore the need for a PPP approach is inevitable to enable the attainment of whatever cybersecurity objectives we have as a country. So I think it is within this context that whatever we're doing today, bringing different people from academia, from government, from the private sector into one room and having this discussion, I think, that summarizes it all. Now, let me invite Mrs. Bukola Ogunleye, who is the Enterprise Architect and Technology Advisor for Oracle Nigeria. She will give us a short speech on the role of information technology in financial investigations and systems, corporate fraud and corruption. That's a mouthful, but I'm sure she will do justice to the topic within the time allotted to her. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bukola Ogunleye, and I work with Oracle. I'm an enterprise architect with Oracle. So today, I'm going to talk about the role of IT in financial investigations and systems, with a focus on corrupt practices, as in corporate fraud and corruption, basically. On the agenda, we'll look at what exactly is fraud, what is corporate fraud, what is corruption. We all have different ideas, and sincerely, before I had this presentation, I had the kind of different idea of what corporate fraud was. I really didn't have the total view, but now I seem to have a better understanding. So I'll look at the definition, and then I'll look at financial investigations with focus on fraud and corruption. When you hear fraud, basically it's tied to money. So how does this investigation go on from the financial sector? What are the challenges they face? How can they use IT to enhance this investigation? And what are the kinds of systems, architecture? I said I'm an enterprise architecture. So at the end of the day, when I talk and talk and talk, I'll come to, okay, so what kind of architecture do we have to address this problem? So first, I got this from the Financial Worldwide magazine. And basically, this, I won't read through, but just to point out, it says there's a lot of action right now in terms of anti-corruption. However, the more the action, the more the fight, it's like these guys, these perpetrators of this fraud and corruption, they're finding other different ways to target organizations. And companies really need to be on guard. You just can't let your guard down as a government, as individuals, as companies. We all need to tackle this menace together. So what exactly is fraud? First, fraud, by the dictionary, says it's a wrongful or criminal deception intended to result in financial or personal gain. So further research for me says fraud is a one-to-one kind of crime. So I defraud you or you defraud me, individuals. But when it comes to corporate fraud, this is now fraud that involves a company or a group of an entity, basically. So it always involves an individual and a company and a company, or a company and an individual, or even a government establishment, under a company. Then corruption. Corruption is abuse of entrusted power, but also tied to personal gain. So you're abusing this power with the intention of getting some personal money for yourself and all of that. And corruption, can be classified into different sectors. So it can be petty, it can be political, which we're all very familiar with. And at the end of the day, it ties to money being lost and the particular sector that is being involved. Now, I just put this off because lately, not just lately, really over the time, we hear different kinds of corrupt scandals, corrupt practices and all of that. And these are some common headlines. We all know of the Madoff scandal with the Ponzi scheme that ran for years and years. I was reading it the other day and it was like over 30 years of corrupt practice and it was never caught. Unfortunately for the football fans, there's a current verdict that has just been stamped on Lionel Messi. Tax evasion. Tax evasion is a fraud. So when you don't even pay your tax, you're being fraudulent. The FIFA corruption scandal, the Toshiba case, this thing we hear it all the time. And sometimes it really doesn't resonate down with us because we're like, it really doesn't concern us. But if we dig deep and see, it's really, really close to us, closer to us than we can even imagine. Now, coming back to Africa, when we look at corruption in Africa, corporate fraud in Africa, in West Africa, unfortunately, Nigeria ranks the highest. East Africa is Kenya, Central Africa, Zimbabwe. And my own conclusion is that, we always think Nigeria is so corrupt and all of that, but I think the rate of the corruption in the country is it's kind of related to the scale of the economy. So the larger the economy of that country, most likely, the higher the corruption practices. And studies have shown that in the whole of Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, Zimbabwe, and South Africa, those 4 countries constitute 74% of all the fraud cases in Africa. South Africa has the highest number of reported cases. Please take note of that, reported cases. However, Nigeria's case has the highest amount when it comes to corporate fraud. So I'm sure a lot go unreported, but in terms of the value, the value of corporate fraud in Nigeria is a lot higher than everywhere else in Africa. So let's look at the investigation of this corporate fraud, because corporate fraud would always occur. However, it's been very difficult to prevent. Because, you know, if you take a developed country like America, you will think as developed as they are, corporate fraud shouldn't happen or corruption shouldn't happen, but it happens. They have all this technology, but it still happens. So the key thing here is, in terms of investigating corporate fraud and corruption, organizations will have to create effective policies. They need to have systems in place to carry out checks and balances, and of course physical security. But you know, physical security in terms of, you know, getting who is accessing what, who is going into what, and all of that, for the companies to be able to audit and monitor their own financials, basically. Then the major goal of any financial investigation usually is to identify and document the movement of money. You know, we said fraud is related to money. So we need to be able to monitor how is this money being moved. So the origin of the money, who is receiving the money, the beneficiaries and all of that. And when is this money being received? Where is it being stored? Basically, you should be able to monitor it from inception all the way to the end. And corporate fraud also, let us note, even financing terrorism is also part of corporate fraud, because the money is being stolen from somewhere to finance something that is not legit or in the books of the company. So tracing all of those kinds of fronts are part of the kinds of investigation that goes on when it comes to corporate fraud. I'll just skip through because of time. Now, what are the kinds of challenges that investigators face when it comes to investigating corporate fraud and corruption? The high cost of operational cost. In the previous plenary, when the military man was talking about using IT to curb national security and all of that, he mentioned cost, because we can't shy away from the cost. Cost of managing, cost of buying the systems, cost of the individuals that would operate this system. High cost of management is always a huge challenge. Then regulation, because there's a Yoruba saying that omoti ye, as in the child that will not allow the mother to sleep, the child too will not sleep. Pardon my French. So this issue will always come up. And because the fraud is continuous, corruption is continuous, regulatory agencies also are bringing up new policies and new standards for organizations and companies to face. So the increasing regulatory pressure for companies to have consolidated visibility into their system is a huge challenge when it comes to investigation. They need to have real-time access to this information, because as the information, if you take a company, for instance, transacting business financially, you must have real access to where's the money coming from, where is it going to, who is accessing what, who is taking what, you know, and what is it being used for. Real-time access, very important. And another challenge is in terms of different applications. So you find a lot of organizations these days, they just have, okay, we have this challenge, they get an application for it. We have this other challenge, they get another application for it. But there is no consolidated view of all of these applications and the ability to integrate all their processes. So these are key challenges. My time is almost up. So basically, when we now say, how can we use IT systems to curb or to support the investigation of corporate fraud? The ideal system that we'll look at should be able to manage the financial crime investigation and the regulatory compliance. So it's managing the investigation and compliance to certain regulations and policies that has been set. It should be able to view the exchange of financial crime and compliance intelligence across different systems automatically and different platforms. So I talked about having different applications, different vendors to support this task and this scheme, but we should be able to have a holistic view of everything. You should be able to effectively detect, investigate, and report once it suspects money laundering activities in the system. It should be able to provide the regulators and the stakeholders with a 360-degree view. That is, as companies are being audited, you should be confident enough to allow auditors go through your papers, giving them the full view of your accounting and all of that. Most of these accounting scandals that we hear, like the one of the Toshiba and all of that, it's the inconsistency of the accounting books and their inability to have a holistic view of their financial activity. And then the ideal system should help reduce implementation and compliance risk. That is, it should be easy to use, easy to deploy. So it's not like as the new policies are coming in, you're having the huge task of, oh, how do we implement this? It's going to take a year, it's going to take 6 months and all of that. So what are the capabilities of a financial investigation system? We say the capabilities of the financial investigation system should have, one, the ability to stick with, to give a holistic compliance management. So I've said most times when it comes to financial investigations, our FIUs set policies and standards for organizations, whether it's banks or companies, to comply with. So the system should be able to manage this compliance, should be able to set alerts and events. You know, when as things happen, it should be able to alert the right people. It should be able to give regular, updated and real-time reporting across the board. Case management, very key. As a corporate fraud or corruption is being investigated, there should be a system that manages this case from beginning all the way to the end. And it should be a world-class detection and monitoring. It should have a world-class detection and monitoring system. You should be able to integrate to your existing systems. So, what are the features of a financial investigation system? So generally, you should be able to carry out a search. So if there's been some cases, previous cases, and you now have some new cases relating to it, you should be able to run quick searches through the system to get to do comparison and all of that. You should be able to report instantly. You should have an automated process flow. Automated process flow in that the system should be able to not just integrate to your other systems or integrate to other agencies. You should be able to call a process and automatically carry out a complete workflow from beginning to end. And security, very key, because if this system, if what it's doing is investigating certain things, then security has to be very important, because you should ensure that the system is not compromised. Just quickly going on that. So when we've looked at the kinds of system, IT system that can help curb that can help with investigation of corporate fraud and corruption, and what kind of architecture are we looking at when we talk about this system? So bear in mind, this is more of a kind of generic architecture, because at the end of the day, when you're carrying out a financial investigation, so whether it is a government FIU or if it is a company itself that is just investigating fraud and corruption within its system, you need to have a channel to receive information from. So data will be received from certain sector. It could be from external. So for a government FIU, for instance, you want to be able to get information from banks and monetary related organizations in Nigeria, or even foreign establishments, as the case may be. So there has to be a smooth inflow of data into the system and a smooth output as well. So integration of different systems together, and the case management being robust enough to carry out investigation, to carry out the process automation, the search, the analysis, and then output into reporting, and then analytics and reporting across board. So whatever the case, whatever state of the investigation the company or the agency is, there has to be reporting. Yeah, noted. There has to be reporting and analytics at every point in time. These are examples of financial investigation system solutions relating to anti-money laundering, tax evasion, counter fraud, know your customer, and all of that. So, because there are different solutions that address different needs when it comes to corporate fraud, the financial investigation system should be able to integrate all these different kinds of systems. So if it's a system that is doing know your customer, the anti-money laundering system, the tax evasion system, for an agency, for a government agency that is tasked with the responsibility of investigating financial crime, they should have an integrated system that will cut across the board. So basically an integrated financial investigation system that relies on consolidated data and being able to give a holistic view in terms of reporting and analytics. What are the kinds of value, business value, that a corporate can get by implementing financial investigation systems? So it's They need to meet up with local and global regulatory requirements, of course, as the policies are set, as the compliance laws are being identified. They always have to meet up with it. They need to be able to reduce false positive and implementation time, so the implementation should be quicker and faster than well, in conclusion, let me just round up. So in conclusion, what are we saying exactly? We're saying corporate fraud, corruption is there. We can't shy away with it. And it's really not going to go away very soon. So as the perpetrators get smarter, organizations, government agencies also have to start thinking of systems to outsmart these perpetrators. Analytics always very key, because there is no way you will know if the system is optimal if you don't have real-time reporting or real-time analytics on what is going on in the system. Management of data, there's always disparate data from different agencies, different organizations, different systems. You always need to be able to have an integrated approach to managing the entire system so that we can curb this menace of fraud and corruption. So that's it. I tried.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Very useful. Very interesting perspective. Some of the things we took, I thought were not defined in the way and manner that constituted fraud also fell within. Yes, there were vices, but defining them as fraud. But the key takeaway for me there was that there's a need, because of the increasing regulatory pressure, as a result of the increasing sophistication of the perpetrators, the challenge of devising new systems to address disparate components of the fraud become more eminent, and then that gets organizations buying disparate systems. And then now you're back to the beginning again, where you need now to have a more consolidated view, and that's where the enterprise architecture of ensuring that everything continues to ensure that you can investigate, analyze, and still be regulatory compliant in the end. Now, quickly, there's a trend to this, in case you have not noticed, is availability of broadband makes it imperative for you now to face challenges around fraud. Now, the next speaker is Mr. T. George Maria Tiendezwa. Did I get it? I tried. Okay. Well, I'll keep learning. Who is an assistant director and head of computer crime prosecution unit in the Federal Ministry of Justice. He's also the secretary of the Cybercrime Advisory Board. So he will give us a perspective around cybercrime investigations and prosecution about bridging the gaps. And I know him very, very well. He knows how to keep to time so perfectly. So I'm sure he'll keep his 10 minutes. He gave us a nice presentation 2 days ago, and he kept the time admirably. So I'm sure today he will not prove me wrong. Please go ahead, George. Give him a round of applause just to encourage him.
Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon. I think most of the introductory part has been dealt with. We've talked, well, the outline for this presentation, we intended to look at, I think everybody here knows what the interconnected world is. You know about some of the crimes that go on there. I'm going to talk about the legal and institutional framework as we have it in Nigeria, and a bit of what the international framework looks like. I put a couple of slides on our own law, that is the Cybercrimes Prohibition, Prevention, etc. Act of 2015. Just some key points to note. Then we'll look at some gaps and bridges, and then challenges and opportunities. Okay, so first of all, well, this is just introductory. You've had quite a bit of presentations talking about what the crimes can be and all of that. But basically, every crime conceivably in the physical world is also possible online. For Nigeria as a country, the rude awakening actually came in 2003 when one of our consular officers was shot in Prague because this gentleman had been defrauded, and he felt that all attempts to get some sort of response from the Nigerian High Commission, from the Nigerian Embassy, did nothing. So he went ahead and shot an officer. That prompted us, it woke us up from slumber. Now, well, because you're basically computer people, I had put in a couple of definitions. What are computer crimes? Basically here we're looking at, there are three kinds particularly. Offenses that are targeted at computers, the confidentiality, integrity and availability of computers and networks. Then you talk about offenses that are facilitated by the growth of technologies. So you had them traditionally, but the availability of the internet makes it a lot easier to perpetrate them. And then you have content-related offenses. There are international standards that set out the framework for the fight against cybercrime. But the key thing to note is that our domestic laws criminalize, establish the offenses themselves. Okay. Now, what's the legal and institutional framework for fighting, for investigating cybercrimes? In Nigeria, well, the last presenter, no, the EVC of NCC mentioned the fact that we had adopted a national cybersecurity policy and strategy, which came after quite a number of years of trying to put this together. That was done in 2015. Now, the strategy is a subset of the overall national security strategy, and it does set out quite a number of national objectives aimed at not just fighting cybercrime, but also ensuring the safety of online transactions. Basically, I just highlighted a couple of national priorities. The strategy deals with issues of incident management, the critical infrastructure protection, information assurance and monitoring, international commitment, because cybercrime is borderless. We don't operate alone. Then, of course, you have the issue of capacity building. Then there are a couple of strategic goals that were set there. Now, this is just showing you what the legal framework and the initiatives are. Now, out of that, it was projected that by 2015 we should have had the law, and luckily, yes, for this time we did. That's after 10 years of trying to enact cybercrime-specific legislation in Nigeria. Now, flowing from this, on the 18th of April this year, the Cybercrime Advisory Council was inaugurated. It's part of the mechanisms to ensure an effective implementation of the Cybercrime Act. Now, because of time, I'm just going to run through something. There's the first part of the Cybercrime Act, and usually, especially for an audience like this, I wish to highlight something. The Act sets out certain aims, but above all, in sections 3 and 4 of that Act, it makes provisions for the President to designate what we call critical national infrastructure for added protection. Now, the point was made that a lot of our communication infrastructure and all of it is in private hands. A lot of it, as at present, doesn't get as much protection as it should. Now, talking to your society as it is important that we should realize, and I know that quite a number of stakeholders have raised issues. We want standards done, we want this done, certain things, the government is not proactive enough. But I would urge that members should take a good look at sections 3 and 4 of the Cybercrime Act and come up with the key technical things and requirements that challenge you in the course of your work. And I'm sure that under the ambit of the Cybercrime Advisory Council, it will begin to receive the attention of government, because that is one of the functions that body is charged with. Well, part 3 of that act deals just with the various offenses, starting from unlawful access. It goes through to unlawful interception and all of that. Because of time constraints, I will urge all members to just take a look at some of it. Some of these offenses, I had reason to explain to a couple of people that some of the rationale, understanding the rationale for some of these offenses is key. Why does the Act start with the first offense you have there, outside of offenses against critical national infrastructure, is illegal access. Illegal access is what opens the door. So if someone doesn't have illegal access to your system or to your network, they won't be able to do all of the other crimes. They won't be able to steal your information, take your data, and all of that. So for that reason, it is criminalized. There is also something I need to point out. Now, the issue around the offense of misuse of devices. Again, industry players, a couple of stakeholders have raised issues about whether it is not going to inhibit innovation. And at all times, we've answered that the offense of misuse of devices as couched under our law does not in any way inhibit innovation, because basically someone who is researching, some of the youngsters who are trying to develop code and all of that, that there is a legal basis for that action. Now, the other thing is, well, I put in the part about administration and enforcement of the Act. Then, well, Section 42, which set up the Cybercrime Advisory Council. Then, now the issue of jurisdiction and international cooperation. It is important to note that because, like I mentioned earlier, almost everybody here has some Gmail email account, and some of that information needs to trace back somewhere. So you need to have the mechanism that allows you to reach out and talk to your neighbors. Luckily for us, at least we have a robust enough provisions dealing with international cooperation. Okay, now to underscore the role that international cooperation can do, you need to deal with issues of mutual legal assistance. You need to deal with issues of collecting and sharing evidence. And a lot of the time, this has to go across borders. Now, I just put in the scope of the Budapest Convention, which is the sole international instrument dealing with the fight against cybercrime. Now, just like our own law, what it does is it criminalizes conduct, it puts in place procedural provisions that allow your law enforcement to get data, preserve it, seize, and intercept where necessary. Of course, it has ample provisions for international cooperation. Okay, now, some of the gaps. One, we're getting to the part where you talk about gaps because, okay, not right. One of the major gaps is understanding digital evidence, both the technical issues and the legal issues. That's what cybercrime presents to us. Two major challenges. Technical issues around digital evidence and the legal issues. In terms of the technical issues, we need to understand, especially as computer professionals, when you're running a system, what is your obligation to help law enforcement? Because some of the procedural provisions require them to do stuff like ask you for expedited preservation of data, ask you for the other chat logs that, not just chat logs, but system logs and all of that. In some places, you actually find that system administrators have no, how do I put it now, don't have a system where they store logs. Now, this becomes very important. So you can have a production order served on you, and basically you should know that this is within the ambit of the law, and you are in duty bound to work with the investigators. The law also talks about search and seizure. Now here, issues that come up, do you seize, you come into, say, an enterprise, do you seize everything? Do you seize just what you need? How then do you determine that you're getting everything that you need, if you have a warrant and all of that? Here, again, one of the gaps is the knowledge gap between people, officers who have the forensic capability to do these investigations and all. So as a society, we need to begin to encourage people. Earlier on, there was the talk about competitions for youngsters and all. This is an area that we need to begin to build capacity, because as long as we're dealing with online environment, we need to be able to do forensics. One of the things you can do is, if you are aware and someone comes to you, you can then tell them, hey, why don't you use some triage tools, get the information that you require. There's also the need to maintain business, because you can't always carry everything. If you do that, you'll have a data overload. The law also provides for stuff like real-time collection of traffic data and also content data. Now, traffic data is very useful when you're doing stuff like watchword, terrorism, investigations and all of that. And content data actually is the investigators' honey, because content data actually gives you the core of the communication. And why does our law allow our law enforcement to get content data? It allows law enforcement to get content data because in very serious situations, that is at the heart of national security. So I know that the gentleman who, Mr. Benga Sesson, asked the question about privacy and all of that, but there are times when you need to trade off privacy for national security, and our law makes that provision. Now, one other challenge, yes, I'll just run off now. Another challenge is when you have data, you have, you know a fraud has taken place, you know this person was, something happened here. How do you put the suspect at the computer? Here, one of the things that we need to take note too is the importance of understanding the different roles in cyber investigations. The role of the technical person, that is the cyber investigator, the role of the law enforcement officer, and the role of the prosecutor. These people need to work as a team. Now, presently you have a disconnect, and you need to understand what the other party does so that you don't undermine his own role. Now, one thing that was mentioned, and I need to reiterate, is the issue of data protection. We need to deal with the issue of this, both at a policy and legislation level. I think, well, I mentioned the issue of digital forensics. So one other gap is you need to understand what defenses your suspect is going to come up with. You will see some of that. Well, that's just an ideal situation. What should obtain in a team investigating cybercrime? Then you have a couple of takeaways. How do you bridge the gaps? Basically, capacity building for investigators, first responders, digital forensics specialists, as well as prosecutors, judges, and our legislators. Why do I add legislators here, even after they've passed the law? Because some of the initiatives that need to be done for us to get on our feet will need funding, and they need funding in a fast manner. So it is helpful if our legislators begin to understand the scope of what we're dealing with. Lastly, now there are also certain initiatives, cooperation. We need to start it in country between your agency and the next agency, and then do it on a national level and on a sub-regional level before we go international. Because the bottom line is that the guys who operate these networks, the criminal networks, don't worry. They don't wait for authorization. They don't wait for tough wars. They function. In fact, the Russians, even those that don't speak English, buy all of the stolen identity cards from Nigeria, even when they don't speak English. So we need to begin to work to cooperate. Lastly, we must engage on the premise and realization that every country relies on another for assistance in fighting cybercrime. And lastly, an effective criminal justice response, okay, will reinforce cybersecurity. Thank you.
Give him a round of applause. He didn't prove me wrong. He kept the time. I know the time is too short. I think there's so much to talk about, and these are very important topics. But I think we're coming to the end. We're going to have the last speaker. And if you notice the trend, we started with national identity, which is the basis of all security, whether it's physical or cyber. And then we moved to the regulator. And then from the regulator, we moved to somebody who spoke from the perspective of building the applications or the necessary infrastructure to address some of these issues. And then we had some law enforcement and legal perspective. Now we're going to have somebody who's going to talk to us from the perspective of somebody who manages the user, the end user. Because this is really about, no matter how strategic you take it, it's down to the individual. How do you manage to ensure that these individuals are not socially engineered and everything you have had, all the sophisticated applications and so are not easily compromised, and also to prevent the sort of fraud we have been listening. So with that, I'd like to welcome Mr. Tosin Aina, who is the IS Manager, Information Security Officer of Wema Bank PLC, to talk to us about the challenges and the changing role of information security management. Please give him a round of applause.
Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I want to believe that we are all having a wonderful time. I can tell you that I really enjoyed today tremendously, I must confess, most especially the speech from Honorable Minister. I can tell you it's actually addressed everything that I want to talk about today, but I'll just want to run through the slides so that we all have deeper understanding of what we need to do today. All right. Without reasonable doubt, you will all agree with me that technology has become so pervasive. It has become part and parcel of everyone, an integral part of us. I tell you, some of us cannot live without, technology at this age now. It has revolutionized the way we do things, even in the world, even Nigeria as a nation. So what we are talking about here today is for us to understand how we can leverage technology to deliver value, how we can drive the economy of the nation with the advent of technology advancement. Our speakers have spoken extensively on all this. I will not waste much of our time. I will run through. Of course, like I said, it has become so pervasive, and at the center of this is SMAC, S-M-A-C, is the emergence of digital ecosystem. We've talked about digital initiatives, digital revolution. Everything has been digitalized. Digital ecosystem is all about digital channels, the individuals, the supporting staff, and most especially the customers, the business processes, people that come together to deliver value. I tell you, it is here in Nigeria. If I should ask how many of us now that have smartphones with us, I believe like 90% of us have. And like the last speaker rightly said, many of us are on Gmails, we are on Google, we are on Instagram, we are on WhatsApp, we are on Facebook. Innumerable number of us are on it. So it has come to stay. It's now for us as a nation to see how we can also get value from this. Okay, I've mentioned this, even according to World Bank, they said it's the way forward as a nation to also get value in this economy, to move forward. It's the way forward that the developing country can move forward and leverage this digital ecosystem. So quickly run through SMAC. I said many of us, we have digital devices. We have the tablet, we have the slate, we have our mobile devices. These are our digital devices. That is what SMAC is all about. We look at the SMAC component, challenges of SMAC in Nigeria. That is one of the reasons why we are here, and that is what we need to address. Going beyond this conference, we must have an actionable plan, documented, and have a way of measuring those plans. I also want to suggest that come next conference, we should be able to roll out the achievement of this conference. We should have a roundtable beyond now. All the security evangelists, security professionals, security officers, analysts, the forensic officers will all come together with different stakeholders, and we channel the cost as a nation. How can we leverage this and drive our economy? Then we also talk about changing rules of ISM. What is SMAC? I've said that. That is social, mobile, analytics, and cloud. It's the convergence of technologies, which I've rightly mentioned earlier on. Of course, we cannot but go back down the memory lane to know where we started from. I know professors in the house will be quite familiar with this. We started from this, the abacus. We go through the mainframe age, the mini computer, microcomputer, before the age of internet and personal computer, and of course, we're in the SMAC age now. The component, social media. As a matter of fact, this has reduced the border. It's a borderless world. This is the platform where there are no secrets. In fact, before you say Jack Robinson, your secret is on Facebook. We all know the impact of this in the last election. And of course, you get more of that. It's something that we need to explore more. Of course, it has its own downside, like all the speakers have rightly said, but I think the positive aspect of it outweigh the negative aspect of it. Of course, we have 16 million users as at February 4, 2016 on Facebook. We also started with this with mobile devices. In 2001, Nigeria witnessed the emergence of GSM. Of course, this laid foundation for what we are talking about today. They said by 2019, as at 2016, this year, we have around 15.5 million users that are using mobile devices. And by 2019, it will move up to 23.3. That's a prediction. Mobile, that's a game changer. You have banking application in your pocket. You have website in your pocket. As a matter of fact, many of us have traveled far and wide via this channel. The number of users that access internet with mobile devices now is more than users that use desktop. So it's really moving. Like my mentor rightly said, this digital transformation is like the moving train. And when you have the moving train, what happens? The moving train is either you join the moving train. There are three things that will happen. You join the moving train, you remain on the platform, or you are consumed by the moving train. There are some blue chip organizations that have been consumed. I don't want to start mentioning names, so we need to move with it. Data analytics, the last two speakers spoke about it, how you need to mine data to get value. Of course, it's about big data, data mining, business dynamics, and cloud. We're in the cloud world now. Many of us, we are on Facebook, we are on Gmail and other devices. So we have different types of cloud. We have the private, the public, and the hybrid. Challenges, which what we are doing here today, we address. The adoption is low. Several organizations are still not embracing this. We are saying we need to create more awareness. We need support from the government. Of course, we have them here, and they will assist us. Cost. The average Nigerian, can they afford to get smartphones? The risk. Everyone has spoken about risk extensively. And the risk will take me to this that was said by Jane. It says SMARC has added multifold value to the business, but its adoption has resulted in security leaders going back to drawing board and come up with strategies. But that's what we are doing today. You go back to drawing board, you see how you can mitigate the risk that are inherent in this SMARC, this new world. Now going to changing roles of ISM, changing role of information security managers and chief information security officers. Their roles are no longer restricted to technical again. They don't need to be working on firewall, routers, switches. You need to be able to manage people, pull people together, and come up with strategy to mitigate the risk. And of course, you come up with security initiatives that will drive the organization. You develop cyber risk framework. We have talked about that even as a nation, to come up with cyber risk framework. More than ever before, professionals need to understand business requirements. You need to understand business dynamics. As a chief information security officer, as the ISM, you need to understand what business requirements is. And of course, it is a top agenda at the board meeting now. So you need to understand how to present cyber risk to the board. You need to understand the dynamics, manage third-party risk, and of course, do your security analytics, be able to monitor threats, be able to respond to incidents, and protect your organizations. Ensure that you carry the users along, you educate them on a regular basis. Arguably, it's an endless world of opportunities. Leveraging SMARC will go a long way to have positive impact on the economy as a nation. But on the flip side of the coin, we need to deploy next generation strategy and professionals to mitigate risk inherent in digital ecosystem. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Tosin Aina, for that insight, a different perspective, but it all ties into the same thing. Okay, I think the time has been fast spent out. However, being an interactive session, I'd like to give the opportunity to people on the floor to, if they have any questions or need further clarifications, to please raise their hands, and then we'll take just a maximum of 4 questions, just so that we'll be able to manage the time. Okay, I'll take 2 in front here, and then there's a gentleman in the middle there. Where's the lady there? Okay, and there's a lady behind the cameraman there at the fine. So we'll just take them in that order. Okay, we'll start from there. Yes, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, and the panel of speakers and everyone present here. I would like to just stand on existing protocol. My name is Olatunde Tijani. Now, I would like to address the man from NIMSI. I remember that last year's conference, we had this same presentation. You know, I will lay a lot of blame on the part of NIMSI, because there's nothing we want to do in terms of security management. Everything is still talked back, we still boil down to data. Now, you keep talking about silos, about all of them, this, it can do this, you know, all the stuff it can do. We are already bored with a lot of them. That's the truth. Because in fact, you know, this NIMSI, I was really following you, because I was interested in the implementation. Now, the first question is, what is causing the delays first in the issuing out of your cards? Okay, some people are already answering me here.
No, let them answer.
Yes.
Okay, next question.
No, I'll continue, sir. I'm just trying to build it up.
You only have 1 minute per question.
Yes, sir. I'm doing that. So, where was I?
Apologies, you're talking about what is holding up the issue.
Yes. So, you know, the implementation now, the other time you talked about that some banks are using NIN. I'm not sure of that. Yeah. So, the thing is now, when are we going to see the implementation proper of these things? And one issue I would like to ask you is, where are all this our data being hosted? And if I'm not wrong, I'm sure he's not in the show of this country.
He will answer that. All right. Thank you.
No, I'm just trying to.
Okay. All right. My guy is asking what is SMAC. Simple one, less than 1 minute question. What is SMAC? Okay. Next one, we'll take okay, there's one person in front, then we'll take another question from the lady at the back.
My name is Dr. Kapilu Lambata. I have 2 direct questions to the last speaker and the NIMSI representative. The NIMSI representative, I want to find out how you can harmonize the database, or how you can synchronize the national database so that we avoid duplications of effort, so that we can carve away costs, because a lot of millions of naira have been budgeted for this database. A lot of allocations of funds have been allocated to FRCN, the SIM registration, the immigration, customs, road safety. What are the efforts are you doing, considering the economic situation of Nigeria, so that we save a lot of money? Then the last questions, I want clarification from your statistics, that is 16 million mobile users. I think the statistics, I did clarification of that statistics. Thank you very much.
You clarification, right? Clarification. All right, there's a lady at the back. Okay.
Oh, I thought it was my turn.
No.
Yes, standing on existing protocols. My name is Mrs. Patience Aigbe. My question goes to the speaker from NIMS concerning the harmonization of this same database. Sorry, but mine is from a different angle. I saw a chart starting from birth to death. Now, at the point of birth, there is a birth certificate. Along the line, a person goes to get a job, and maybe for one reason or the other, he or she changes the birth date. There is a change already. And I have a scenario, a practical one. The person goes for national ID card and decides to say, okay, let me go back to the first real date, the one from birth. And the officer now says, no, I need an existing ID card. And on the ID card is the date that this fellow happens to be using in the office, which is not the one on the birth certificate. And we see the national ID card, therefore, now has a different date from the date of birth. That is the one on the birth certificate. So how do you hope to harmonize these dates when you harmonize the national database for such persons? And I know that that person will not be the only person having this different information, particularly as it regards to date of birth. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Now I'll use my position as chairman to have one. I said 4, but I'll expand that to just one last question. Let's have one more.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. God bless you. I just want to make a comment and ask a question. The comment is this. I got involved in what is now called cybersecurity as far back as 1978. At that time, we were looking at confidentiality, integrity, and availability. The computer was inside a computer room where you have to perform some absolution before you enter. Today, the computer is in my pocket. Therefore, the security issues have also changed. No system is immune from compromise. I have my data in the cloud. Professor Wadia has his data in the cloud, hosted by the same person. And I commit an offense, and there is going to be forensics. How do I protect Wadia's data from being compromised while my own is being looked at? So what I'm trying to say here is that there are very serious questions. So it's more than just waving my hand. Secondly, as to the Cyber Crime Act or whatever, we have problems with the definitions. And if the definitions are not clarified, a lot of people will go unpunished when they commit these crimes. For example, theft. What do you mean by a computer in the Act? What do you mean by access in the Act? For several
of efforts. And then the lady also who asked, you have 3 questions from, including the one that's a live example of somebody has already faked his data and then now wants to use the opportunity of NIMSI to correct it. How does he go about doing that or something similar? So go ahead.
Yeah, the first question, you talked about implementation as well as what is causing the delay of the issuance of national EID card. I will quickly take you through what we have done to date. First and foremost, we already have the infrastructure for
enrollment of every Nigerian into the National Identity Database. That is data capture. We've started that process. We'll have enrollment centers in we'll have about 440 enrollment centers across Nigeria. The enrollment system that we'll have 2,000 enrollment systems. You will recall, or please, I would like to make reference to certain agencies that also do data capture, like INEC. They are having over 1,000 enrollment equipment. Compare that to what we were given. Okay? When government established NIMSI, the plan is to do PPP arrangement. Coincidentally or unfortunately, that didn't work because of certain factors. Probably because the partners engaged, to them, it's not profitable to them. If you have a private business, of course, what comes to your mind is margin. So that delayed the process. But having said that, NIMSI did not wait. What they then did, they had to use what they had to quickly intervene rather than waiting for the partners that were engaged. There were two key partners, I don't want to mention names. They were supposed to do aspects of what NIMSI is supposed to do. They were supposed to handle the data capture as well as personalize the cards and issue the cards to Nigerians. While NIMSI will focus more on regulatory identity regulation and manage the back end. So these are some of the things that actually caused the delay. But like I said, funding, I've said something about INEC having over 1,000 enrollment equipment compared to what we have, just 2,000 enrollment system. However, we didn't stop. We have commenced the process. Nigerians are enrolling, and we've started issuing cards. For you to issue cards, you would have enroll Nigerians, you would have established the database, you would have issued a unique number, that is the national identification number, and then you then personalize the person's information, and then the ID card is issued. And then we also have implemented the verification platform, where, of course, your identity can be verified. Even with your token, we can use it to verify you. That is on. This is not that I'm, just saying for the sake of saying. So in terms of end-to-end process for registration up until the issuance of ID card and verification of identities, we have fully implemented that infrastructure. It's up and running. And then, like I said, the delay in the issuance of your ID card, the PPP, because of the failure of the PPP arrangement, that obviously impacted on the issuance of ID card. Like I said, NIMSI were not meant to do personalized cards and issue ID card to Nigerians. It's supposed to be the partners who were engaged. We call them the front-end partners. But because that didn't happen, what we had, the capacity of what we have in place in terms of personalizing card, we actually implemented that infrastructure just to back up, in the event that a situation like this, like failure on the from the front-end partners, which of course happened. There are so many factors, that have led to that failure. But of course, we're looking at all the various options that will help us to fast-track the personalization and issuance of EID cards to Nigerians. But some Nigerians have gotten the EID cards from us. Then they also talked about where do we have this data. What I can tell you is that we have our infrastructure within our premises. It's not stored anywhere. And I can tell you in confidence that Nigerians, we did not use foreigners with local content. People working in NIMSI, they are all Nigerians. They are the one that developed the system. They are the one that implemented it, and they are the one managing and operating those infrastructure. What have is to do notification. Why? The structure of our database is such that we'll capture 18 data items. There are 80 something fields, it's something fields that we'll capture. But that of BVN is just 22 fields. Okay? So, but what we have done, like I did mention, we are not particular about the functional information. What I mean functional information about your bank accounts, the balances and all those things. It has nothing to do with us. There are certain information that is fundamental for us to uniquely identify you. And such, I can just give you instances, your biometrics and facial, the surname and certain, demographic information. This is what we harmonize with. So what we do is we establish the different local words, the data structure is from the other agency, and look at what we have, what we need, put that against us. There's a system in place that enables the source agency to transmit based on the established criteria, business rules, and once that is done, it's transmitted to us, and that runs through our infrastructure, the enrollment system, and then certain things are done, and then a unique ID is generated for that individual. And once that is done, the feedback that the source agency gets is the name tied to that corresponding information of that individual. If it is NIPS, it goes back to that. That name is tied automatically. And when there is an update, I will use that to respond to the other person there that asked the issue of changing date of birth. You see, there is this slogan that once you enroll, the information that you have supplied at the point where you are enrolling, into the National Identity Database, that information, you live with it. If there is need for you to change it, you have to follow the process for change of the date of birth. Of course, there's a law that, of course, there are some bigger documents that you need to bring. And you will modify, but we'll keep track of the changes that has happened. And the moment you change your date of birth with us, because the various databases has been harmonized and integrated, meaning that all the various agencies can actually have access to our central identity database. That information will be made available to them. It's good, because there is that system in place that, of course, will let them know that, yes, this person, date of birth has changed. And as such, the database from the other side, will also take that update. And if you go to another agency to do, maybe a role and provide another date of birth, as soon as that happens, it gets automatically, that update will get automatically in NIMSI. So what I'm saying that once all the various databases are harmonized and integrated, wherever you are, whatever transaction, you carry out with any of the agencies or with any of the any service provider, any transaction that you are carrying out with, whether it be bank, be it immigration, be it road safety, licensing, and not the rest of it. All the information is, the central database is updated automatically. Also, if you come to NIMSI, that same information will be available to others because all the databases are integrated. So what I'm trying to say is that there is provision for you to make changes, but those changes are tracked. So you cannot go to any of the agencies and provide one information and then go to another agency and provide another information thinking that they will not know because the databases talk to each other. Like I said, we maintain the foundational identity, which has to do with your demographic and then the biometrics. Your biometrics is just the fingerprints and then the facial. Iris, we are in the process of commencing the process. And of course, what I can assure you is that within a shorter time, the iris will be implemented.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chukwuka. All right, quickly, there are still two main outstanding questions. One is a straightforward one. What exactly is the meaning of SMAC, S-M-A-C?
All right, thank you very much. Like I rightly said, SMAC stands for Social, Mobile, Analytics, and Cloud. It's the convergence, the coming together of different technologies, social platform, mobile, analytics, the analysis of data of users that are accessing different data, All right, thank you very much. I think maybe I should just use the opportunity to answer this question too. He said something about how it become about number of users on Facebook. I think there are logs, there are alerts. When we talk about analytics, at the back end of Facebook, they have ways of tracking activities of users that are accessing their platform. The statement was actually made when the head of Africa region from Facebook visited Nigeria, that we have reached that as at February 2016. So it must have gone beyond that. I wouldn't know really. It's about the analytics, the result that we got from their review.
Thank you very much for making that brief and short. Now, just two more questions I think to be answered. One is around the definitions you have inside the Act. Are they tight enough? Are they, like he gave the example, what is a computer in the context? Computers keep evolving. So we just wanted further clarification around that. And then there's a question around integrators and the security. What are we not, as integrators, telling people? Are there hidden loopholes? What's the key value, net? So, just to give us a few 1 minute response to these two questions. I'll start with Chief.
Simply, with respect to definitions, the Act does contain certain definitions in Section 58. I know it defines a computer, it defines access. It also defines unauthorized access. However, one of the things that we did in the framing of this Act was to, as much as possible, adopt technology-neutral language. So, the definition you have for a computer in here is broad enough to cover your old desktop as well as the next item that Apple is going to bring up. It is based on functionality. Now, in terms of, on a comparative basis, while working on this Act, we've had the privilege of also looking at the practice in the jurisdictions you've mentioned, the US, the UK, and a whole lot of other jurisdictions. We've also we did quite a bit of work on this, even with the Council of Europe. So in terms of definitions and concepts, really, the Nigerian Act, funnily, actually is a bit ahead of what the UK legislation is, as we currently speak. Our challenge really is in implementation. But it is a young act. It is not. It is just barely a year old. By the time you begin to implement, by the time some of the provisions are tested in court, we will come up with, at least we'll build a jurisprudence around it. And importantly, too, is to note the fact that as we speak, there are initiatives, our judiciary is being trained, judges are being trained in understanding the concepts and the jurisprudence around some of what the Act deals with. So I'm sure that by the time these issues, when they come up in real cases, we will, ultimately, whatever disputes we have, the courts will pronounce upon them. It does not preclude, one of the priorities in the cybersecurity policy and strategy, one of the items listed there is a revolving review of our cybersecurity legislation. So it does not preclude that if we find that there are certain, of course there are a couple of shortfalls and a couple of things we need to clean up in that. As we implement them, we will go ahead and do that. And then the question, well, I don't know, I think that was just a comment about if this thing is in the cloud, but just so that we know, the truth of the matter is, yes, there are some challenges to law enforcement when you're dealing with data held by cloud service providers. But from a digital forensic point of view, if you're conducting an investigation, you will know how to plan that. The investigator doesn't aim to grab everything, even from the cloud provider, because then on one server, you don't need to pull down all that data because you're making too much work for yourself. So there are techniques around what professionals who are conversant with this are working on. I hope that I've answered the question. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll answer the question with regard to security challenges involved in integrating data. Now, we all know, so there was a question, somebody, I think it was you, sir, that said the fact that there will always be loopholes, really. And the key loopholes that we always see is the human factor, not necessarily the system itself. So the way, when it comes to integrating data, so you're integrating data from either different agencies, like NIMSI wants to do, or within an organization you want to integrate data from different applications or different departments and all of that. The key thing is, the data would only expose the fields that you need. So if you take the case of NIMSI, for instance, and NIMSI is currently trying to pull data from NIBS, they will not put, as Chuk said, they will not put your account details and all of that. So the guys at NIBS would only expose certain fields that they need for that transaction or for that migration. However, there would always be the human factor. So that is always, in any system, in any security system, that is always the biggest loophole, the human factor. There is so much you can control. Somebody was just some days ago, somebody made a reference to Snowden, the guy that, the CIA guy or something that exposed so much. He was given this privilege because it was required by his job. However, it betrayed the trust that was given to him by exposing this data. So that would always, the human factor would always be there. There is so much you can do when it comes to securing your data, even in terms of integrating or storing your data. I hope I was able to address that.
All right, with that, we've come to the end of our session, and I'd like to seize the opportunity to thank all the panelists for a very, very thorough job done, and I do hope that the audience also found it as exciting as we did on this side. Thank you very much, and have a great afternoon.
Please put your hands together once again for the panelists and my able chairman for a very wonderful time. With this, especially this session, very soon if I want to call my president, I'll say 654-32811. You say present. The way we're doing integration,
you have TIN number, you have PIN number, you have NIN number, you have FISN number. Everybody is number now. So if I want to call 68222187, you say, that is me. Because we'll not be using names again. Everything is going identical, unique, and it will be numbers. Please, once again, put your hands together for them. It was really a rich session. Mr. Rex has a brief announcement for the House. Thank you.
I hope we're having fun and getting more knowledge. Just some few announcements in terms of the conference. We're going to break into 3 parallel sessions now. And for parallel session 1, that's going to be on national security and biometrics. And we have Dr. Chris Wanina as the chairman for that session. And that session we hold at the basement. The basement is just, okay, after, when you come out of the hall, then the staircase down to the left. And the second session will be on national safety and e-government, and that will be chaired by Professor Charles Uwadia. I'm sure Prof is still around. And the third session is going to be on Research Consortium on IT innovations, and we have this will be mainly for students at all levels, masters, PhD students. This session will be for them. And above it all, we have TED Fund. TED Fund will be engaging researchers at this event. They will be telling you how you can access the Tertiary Trust Fund, which is available from the federal government. After these parallel sessions, we're going to have the state chapters meeting. Immediately after the sessions, we're going to have the state chapters meeting here. And by 7 p.m., we're going to have the AGM for College of Fellows at the main auditorium. So that's immediately after the state chapters meeting. So, sorry, at the banquet hall. The banquet hall is just at the opposite here. Once you come out of there, to the right is banquet hall. So, again, I'm going to take this. The national security and biometrics session we hold at the basement. National safety and e-government we hold at the main auditorium. And the parallel session 3 we hold at the banquet hall. That will be chaired by Dr. Abimbola Salako. So the banquet hall is to the right. Once you come out of there, just walk straight down. You have the banquet hall. Sorry? The sessions will be 45 minutes. The sessions, 45 minutes for all the sessions. 45 minutes because we're coming back here for state chapters meeting and we're coming back here for AGM for College of Fellows. College of Fellows AGM will be at the banquet hall. So that is the main reason why we need to finish on time. So 45 minutes we'll work on this. Thank you as we break into different sessions. And we have the discussants for each parallel session: secret sharing scheme for securing biometric template, SO ASAPA, a secured voting system using face biometric and test by EA Salako. Then we have biometric-based integrity control system for the National Pension Commission in Nigeria by ES Alu. For the national safety and e-government, we have the following topics: an analysis of the network readiness index data of some sub-Saharan Africa countries by PK Oriogun, smart governance concepts and its applicability in fighting corruption by T. Balogun, ensuring national job security through information technology, J.O. Rasaki, generic prediction of malaria treatment outcomes using biodata analytics, AS Chodia, Then we have the lead speaker for the third session, Professor Tanko Zakaria, Senior Cybersecurity Engineer from the United States of America. And we're going to have the cyber defense competition, okay, at that session. Resource persons for this other session includes Mrs. Funke Okweke, of the MD of Main One Cable, and the chairman is Dr. Abimbola Salako. Thank you. Sir? Okay.
Check that. Where do I put it?
I think you talked to them. Mr. Steve O'Malley will be the MC for the parallel session 1A. Mr. Bayo Nimode, if you are around, please come to the podium, and you will be the MC for National Safety and E-Government. And that's taking place at the main auditorium here.
Good afternoon. Sorry, good evening, everybody. Please, for those of us who are here for parallel section 1B, National Safety and E-Governance, please can we all move forward and use this front seat here, please? So that we can get done with this very fast. For those who are in for parallel section 1B, National Security and E-Government, please can we move forward so that we can occupy the front seat, please. Yes. Please, for those who are by the entrance, if you're not part of this, please, can you just help us clear that entrance, please? Good evening. For this session, we have 3 papers. 1, an analysis of the network readiness index data of some sub-Saharan Africa by P.K. Oriogun. Please, do we have Mr. P.K. Oriogun here? Professor P.K. Oriogun, do we have him here? A round of applause for him, please. A round of applause for him. Hello? Please, can we move forward, please? I want us to occupy this front seat, please. At least the first 3 rows in front here. Please, so that we can get started immediately. The second paper is on smart governance, concepts and its applicability in fighting corruption by T. Balogun D. And the third one is assuring national job security through information technology by J.O. Razaki. And then the fourth is on generic prediction of malaria treatment outcomes using big data analytics by Dr. A.S. Shudia. This session will be shared by Professor Charles Wadia, Fellow, Nigerian Computer Society. A round of applause for him, please. We can do better than this. Can we give him a round of applause? Thank you very much. Is Professor P.K. Oriogun ready? Okay, do we have Mr. T. Balogun? Is your presentation ready? Mr. Balogun. What about Mr. J.O. Razaki? Is your presentation ready? Is with him already? Thank you very much. Professor P.K. Oriogun, it's ready. If you're ready, you can start your presentation right away. Thank you, sir. A round of applause for him, please.
I can't even see what I... Okay, sorry. Hello. Where does that go? No. Okay, yeah. This is forward. ready. Can we start?
Good evening, distinguished fellows here present, ladies and gentlemen. You are welcome to this session. We just want to be sure how many presenters we have here. Apart from Professor Oriogun, who is here, do we have any of the other presenters here?
There's one here.
Then you should come here. Should be here. Please, Professor Oriogun, just wait a minute. Do we have Mr. T. Balogundi here? Mr. T. Balogundi. What about J.O. Rasaki? J.O. Rasaki, please, you should be here. And then Dr. E.S. Shodia. Is Dr. Shodia here? You're the one presenting on behalf of Dr. Shodia. Okay, please take your seat. So I think effectively we have 3 presenters, and we have about 45 minutes. So we would give each presenter 10 minutes, and we'll allow all the presenters to do their presentation one after the other, and then we can go into the question and answer session. Professor Oriogun, I guess you're ready?
A little bit, yeah.
Very ready.
I needed the internet as well, so maybe we'll skip that and come back to it. If you've got access to the internet.
If you are not ready,
I'm ready.
You could allow the next presenter to...
No, I can just go.
Okay.
So...
please, you have 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Go on.
So this is about Network Readiness Index. It's some work that I've been involved with for the last 2 years. So I'll give you a bit of background. I presented a bit of the work last year at this conference. So I'm going to tell you how I come about looking at this data, or the data set. And we've got some videos from the World Economic Forum for 2015 data and for this year's data that came out on the 13th of this month. So just sort of give you background. So these are the people involved. That's myself. I'm now at Leeds City. I used to be at Elizabeth University. And so these are the various authors. When I joined Elizabeth in 2012, we had to do an infrastructure, ICT infrastructure for the whole campus. And we need to do some auditing of it and so on. And that took us some time. So it took us about 6 months to 9 months to complete. And at the end of the exercise itself, I came up with this model for auditing ICT infrastructure projects within developing economy, specifically within university setting. Basically what they used to do in most universities is they just have consultants dealing with all these things and charging a lot of money. So what we decided to do is to employ a network manager, a web manager, and a systems engineer. And under those people, we got so many things done. And we didn't waste a lot of money by getting consultants in. So when I finished this work, I started looking for a way of developing this model through some framework. And I came across the Network Readiness Index, which was quite useful. Sorry. So at this point, I was going to show you a video, but there's no video. So most people have been talking about Internet of Things now. So African governments and businesses need to accept the concept of Internet of Everything by being fully digitized with highly robust computer networks, security, in order to embrace modern technologies in the form of cloud, mobile, social, and analytics. So most people have been talking about this today, but it's very, very important. We're not doing it as such. We need to realize the importance of achieving societal and economic transformation by fully understanding the connection between people, process, data, and things in order to create the needed opportunity for African citizens. So this brings me to the NRR, Network Readiness Index. A country's network readiness is an ideal indicator of a country's ability to implement and take a competitive advantage of information communication technologies. So what I did, we investigated 6 sub-Saharan countries for a particular reason. I'll show you the data set and explain to you why we chose those 6, and including Nigeria. And part of our conclusion at the end is that in terms of network readiness in Africa, during the period of our prediction, we predicted for 9 years, for 2016 to 2024. Data security will be crucial in 3 areas. We think confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data will be very, very, very important. So this is the data from 2001 until 2015. So what they do is they do the analysis in 2001 and publish the result in 2002. So what's happened is what we decided to do is the one that started from the beginning of the analysis right to the end were the one we were interested in. So Botswana, although started in 2002 and 3, the red bit. The next one, Nigeria is in this one. So Botswana, Mauritius, Namibia, Nigeria, South Africa, and Zimbabwe were the ones that I've used for my analysis. We've just used simple regression analysis. The problem we had here with this data is in 2000 and, which year was it? 2004-5 and 5-6. I think the methodology used for the data was different from the other ones because we were getting some negative figures. So as a consequence, I didn't use those. So I used the previous 9 years to predict the next 9 years. So we started from 2006-7 right until 2015, from 14-15. So what we did, you can tell that Nigeria was actually 2.1. The maximum of the scale is 7. And all the European countries and America and co was scoring 6 point something. So I was quite interested in why is it Sub-Saharan Africa wasn't doing that well. Normally, it's the Sub-Saharan Africa is normally the last 25% of the data set. So we investigated this, and I didn't want to start from the beginning because there was some problem, but I didn't understand the methodology that they used 2 of the years when the data set was very, very low. So we started doing our calculation from 2006-7 right until 2015. We then predicted from 2016 until 2024. So the report for 2016 came out on the 13th of July. So these are the simple regression and some data to go with it. So this is the Botswana equation. Now, our prediction is actually 3.41, but they had 3.5 in 2016 report that came out just about a week ago. Now there's another problem, there's another issue. All the other data sets have been to 2 decimal places, but this year they've all gone to 1 decimal place, which is a bit weird. And then I'll show you how they've done the calculation as well. So this is Botswana. Botswana is actually quite a bit higher up because majority of sub-Saharan countries tend to be below 3, maximum 3 out of 7. So Mauritius is actually quite high up as well. So we predicted 4.41, and the actual value for this year is 4.4. And then they've actually moved up. They've moved down about 4 places to 49 in the ranking. Namibia we predicted 3.46, and they're actually 3.6, so they've gone up as well, and they've moved up in the ranking by 3. Nigeria, however, stays, we predicted 3.24, but the actual value is 3.2. It's actually 3.14. I've done the calculation again based on the data set that they've got to 2 decimal places. In South Africa, we predicted 3.9. They were 4.2, and they've gone up quite a lot, up by 10 in the ranking. So I think that's why it's slightly out of line or out of sync with our prediction. Zimbabwe, we predicted 3.34. They came to, they were down 3.0, and they actually gone down as well, 122, down 1. Incidentally, Nigeria didn't move. Nigeria stays the same on the scale. So this is the prediction that we had from 2016 to 2024. The 2016 data, 50% of our prediction seem to be sort of correct. Again, there's another. Okay, this is quite a nice, useful data. The first set of red figure that you've got there, they measure environmental, political, and regulatory environment. They measure infrastructure, affordability and skills, under readiness, under usage, individual usage, business usage, and government usage. So what they've done, if you take the average of on the environment, 4.1 and 4.1 is the average in red, 4.1. And similarly, if you take the average of readiness, 3.1, 2.9, 4.6, you get the 3.533 and so on. But what I think they should have been doing is to actually average the black ones, not the red ones, and then that would have given us the purple ones. But to 2 decimal places is not too bad. This is exactly what they've got. But if the scale is to 7, 2 decimal places is actually very significant. So and I wanted the World Economic Forum authors to actually relate to this. I spoke to them before I wrote this paper, and I wanted to interact with them because some of the data that they've got, it's a little bit iffy. So I'm having a bit of a dialogue with them. So it's like a personal issue with me and them. I think they're not representing Sub-Saharan Africa the way they should be representing it. So from this published data that came out on the 13th of July, South Africa was up by 10 in the ranking, and they discovered that the business sector is providing the most momentum in South Africa. The country needs to reverse the trend of a deteriorating business and innovation environment. Ethiopia also moved up 10 and is with a score of 3.1. The problem in Ethiopia has been attributed to individual usage and skills, which means not very many people have enough money to actually use the internet and so on. Cote d'Ivoire, they've gone up by 9. The largest barrier is to tackle for Cote d'Ivoire is infrastructure and affordability, which I think is probably the same thing in Nigeria. Infrastructure, affordability. We have a lot of people that can do things. We have the infrastructure, but it's not being looked at properly. Leadership in terms of digital adoption is coming from different groups of stakeholders. However, much of the efforts are government-driven in Ethiopia and Cote d'Ivoire. So some of the stuff, especially for Nigeria, I think government agencies to do with ICT needs to be involved, because I think this Network Readiness Index is a very, very important thing. It's been going on since 2001, and every year there's a published data about it. And people tend to relate to countries nowadays based on this index. So I think we need to take it very seriously. We also seize the opportunity to predict the population size over the next 9 years. The red bit are the actual figures that we got for this year for those countries. In Nigeria, I think what we predicted for Nigeria for 2017 is about what we are now. So we're about 187 million people right now, according to country meters on the internet. But the prediction that we had was about 183 million. So we're about 5 million, or just over 4.7 million ahead of what our prediction is. So we conclude that in terms of network readiness in sub-Saharan Africa, during the period of our prediction, data security will be crucial in these 3 areas that I said before: confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the data. It's possible that the fact that 5 out of the 6 investigated sub-Saharan African countries were unable to or have not increased their NRI ranking in any significant way may be due to a number or a combination of things identified by the report in 2016. Deteriorating business and innovation environment, individual usage and skills or lack of it, infrastructure and affordability, unstable and or new governments, including policies, corruption, or people just want to be where they are. So I think a combination of all these things relates to Nigeria as well. And we need to move with the time. You know, the Network Readiness Index is here to stay. And we need to make sure we improve our score. Currently, I think Mauritius is scoring the highest of all of them. So I think I'll stop there.
You need to round up.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. A round of applause for him. Well, it's quite difficult. We are constrained by time, but at the same time, we want to take some values out of this place. Well, President Oriogun, we may still have time to come back to your papers through question and answer, and if we have more time, you can do the demo. Okay. Chi Balogunde, you here? Okay. Gio Rasaki. Where is smart governance? Well, I think while we're waiting for the next presenter to be ready, those who have questions for Professor Oriogun, I think we can save time by taking questions. Okay. Professor Adagmodo, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, Chairman. My name is Rotimi Adagmodo. I want to thank Professor Oriogun for the good presentation. I just have these two questions. The first one is, this NRI, what actually do you use it to measure? The networked readiness index. Then two, the conclusions that you came about Nigeria in terms of infrastructure, how did you actually come about that from the, although you did not even present the data for Nigeria, but you gave us that conclusion about infrastructural deficiency and so on and so forth. And then thirdly, you promised to show us a 1-minute video. Maybe because you were constrained time, you didn't show it. Thank you very much.
The NRI, Network Readiness Index, is actually a country's preparedness for the internet age. You know, that's what he's looking for. And I was very much interested because when I came up with the model that I showed you in the second slide, I was thinking of coming up with a framework that will fit that model. And in the process of finding out, I stumbled across the NRI, and I thought some of what they're doing is useful in some cases, but it will not be 100% useful for Africa, in the context of Africa. The conclusion that I came up with is not actually mine, it's the conclusion that I came up with for the 2016 report in general for sub-Saharan Africa. And I'm sort of generalizing that it won't be so different in Nigeria. So it wasn't that I'm saying that it's, you know, those are things that happen in Nigeria as well. But this is a collective thing that the report came up with for sub-Saharan Africa. And since we're part of sub-Saharan Africa, you know, I think it's justified what you've said. But my only problem with the index is that it's not taking some things into consideration. Where we are, some things, they need to weigh certain things slightly differently from what they have abroad, so that we can then showcase ourselves. So they do have groups dealing with different countries. So they have a particular group dealing with sub-Saharan Africa, but I'm almost certain that the problem isn't any African in those people. I can't tell you, but I'm almost certain there's none. So I'm actually having a dialogue with these people, and I'm going to get them to read this paper that I've written so that they can look at their data and start getting appropriate people to work with them when they're dealing with sub-Saharan Africa. So I'm actually taking, it's a personal issue that I'm taking with these people. So, and I think the thing is, there's no reason why you shouldn't take argument with anybody if you feel that what they're doing is not quite what you want. Because the very, very powerful organization, World Economic Forum, people take them seriously. data that they publish about Sub-Saharan Africa, people will take seriously. And if people don't actually look at the data properly, assess it, analyze it properly to see that what they're doing is okay for where we are, then they'll get away with it. So as far as I'm concerned, I will send this paper to the authors of the report that there's some things I need, especially this year, everything is to 1 decimal place. Normally it's to 2 decimal places. And if the maximum of the scale is 7, you know, that 1 decimal place is not quite reflective as far as I'm concerned. So there's a lot of issues surrounding certain way that they're implementing, and even the data collection methods, I'm not too sure of how effective it is, because they need to talk to government agencies to get data about the country. And also, in some cases when they don't use the country, it's possible, like when there was the Ebola crisis, there was nothing for Sierra Leone, and you know, where Ebola was prominent. So it's a bit like, if they couldn't get the country, they just leave it out. So I don't know if I've answered your questions.
Well, while I might want to say that could be work in progress, I think it's going to be necessary for you to get in touch with NIDA, which is actually the government agency that should be providing the kind of input required by this body. I do not think this body would have just manufactured data that they will be using for this kind of analytics. So I would suggest you do that. And Orwell Achumba, very quickly. All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Good day, Mr. Presenter. My question is this: what is the implication of the negative figures for the index of some of the countries for some years? And secondly, how do we get the full details of these lectures for other and including other lectures for this conference? Because the seed is given to us, I tried to open my own, and what I saw as the label is the Ramadan lecture and an empty CD. So how do we get some of these presentations? Thank you very much.
Well, I think your last question will be answered by the organizers. I hope the MC is here. Please, you note that, and then we get a feedback from the organizers. Mr. Opara.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Just 1 minute.
Yes.
Mr. Orwell Achumba, just 1 minute. And then I'll ask Professor Oriogun to just note the questions. And then I will move on to the next presentation. And then I will come back and take the answers. Thank you. Just go on.
Thank you. I only want to emphasize, because when we consulted in the 80s for UNCTAD, we found out that the way they raise their data, that they circulate, that has serious implications on countries. They are terribly baseless. And I had one occasion to take one young guy from UNCTAD out to dinner. And at that discussion, he confessed that they don't have any scientific approach to the gathering of their data. So I will encourage you, Prof, that you take it a little more seriously and even throw it open for better comments on people who have done such international such works, so that you can put up a team working on it, because the World Economic WEF is taken very, very seriously. If you do infrastructure, investment promotion and all of that, they are taken so seriously, you don't want to toy with the data they put out. So if you find anything wrong with the data coming from your client, I think it's very important we get people working on it a little more seriously. And like Prof said, maybe get in touch with NIDA, who put together a team to work on it very seriously, because it's a very serious issue. Thank you very much.
I was just raising my hand before the chairman said something, and he said that this work, Prof, is a work in progress, because I wanted to say that it looked too abstract and too technical. You couldn't internalize it with our own country here? What are the benefits we're getting from there? With regard to the topic we're looking at, we're looking at national security and e-governance. How do we now apply it? That's what I just wanted to ask. But since it's work in progress, so you continue, and then at the end, you just give us the end product. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, gentlemen. Please, I'm sorry. Lady, just wait. Let's just take outstanding presentations. Okay. If we don't have time, I'm sure you can meet the presenters and then ask the questions. But let's have the benefit of the other presentations. I hope you are ready this time. Okay.
Good evening. Good evening, Prof. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to present a paper titled Assuring National Job Security Through Information Technology. From the abstract, I said that IT is very important in training and development of human resources in any country through the impartition of appropriate skills, capacities, value, knowledge, and attitude, which can be used to transform individual, nation, and community, and the world at large. This paper is outlined in these subheadings, and I have the introduction aspects, the job security, the job insecurity, the unemployment, entrepreneurial education, IT as a panacea to job security in Nigeria, the economic benefits, conclusion and recommendation. Here, we are trying to look at what actually is required for individual or corporate bodies to have what you call job security in the country. You know, it is very easy for one to get job. How to sustain it is the major problem which this paper is trying to discuss. Looking at this, I look at a situation where a group of people or individual were laid off in their place of work as a result of challenges here and there due to maybe IT-related issues. So here I said that it is absolutely true that the public jobs are secure jobs, but we also found out that most individual and corporate bodies, that is private companies as well, have a secured job for most people. It's just because of the number that is related. So under Information Parallel 2015, we said that basic economic theory support the economic expansion influence in business, labor input and output, thus job security. What actually do we mean by a secure job? Is when an individual is expected to retain his job or remain on the job up to the age of retirement, or when the person voluntarily retired due to, or the person decided to change, relocate. He's actually worrying about losing the job itself, while the qualitative is worrying about the importance of job features. Job features could be the salary, could be the job working condition, and so on and so forth. What actually is unemployment, no job, or relief of job is what is the major economic virus. Okay,
please do. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. We're here to present a paper titled Generic Prediction Input. As a nation, there's a need to have an infrastructure for data input, which we can only get from the hospitals and from individuals. Now, the reason why we are considering individuals is because we know that many of us administer anti-malaria drugs without going to hospitals. Once we have fever, we're feeling weak, we just know it's malaria. So it's important that we create an avenue for individuals to supply us with data on the anti-malaria drug that was taken, how many times it was taken, if the doses were completed, if there's a reoccurrence, and also to get information from the hospitals that actually test for malaria and prefer anti-malaria drugs. Now, when this data, different information come from these units, that goes to a national malaria server, so to speak, database, where we can now harness the different information. Now, when the information is there, we ensure that there's backups. This is to ensure that the data that we are receiving, which we want to analyze using big data, is true, and we ensure data integrity in some way. So from this point, my colleague will take on the rest of it.
You have about 5 more minutes.
Yeah, we'll start from the big data analytics section of the framework. It's actually like the nucleus of this generic prediction framework we can see. In that big data analytics framework, we have different modules. We have the data preprocessing module, we have the data mining technique, and actually in data mining, talking about data mining, data preprocessing is actually one of the very early stages, or very early steps you have to take in mining data. And talking about data mining, we are actually trying to discover patterns in unstructured data. That's the whole idea. So we start with data preprocessing, then we go to the data mining technique. There are a couple of data mining techniques that can be employed. We have clustering as one of the techniques. We have classification. We have also association.